We all know that people follow the advice of those people they respect, right? But what if it's not about what you say, but actually who you are as a person? Before you can effectively guide them to achieve their dreams, you need to be clear of your own dream as well. In this video, we will break down how to create that vision, and more importantly, how to translate that process into a guiding framework for your students without ever imposing your own dreams onto them. Okay, the first thing is to create the identity of a successful person. I think if you ask anyone, they will all want to be successful. But what does it actually mean to become successful? When something is vague in our minds, it's oftentimes very hard to break it down to get to where we want to go. Where in Australia am I going? How do I want to get there? Do I want to take a morning flight? Do I want to take an afternoon flight? Where do I live when I go over there? These are the questions you think about when it comes to very practical things. When it comes to things like our life, we leave it hanging, not because we don't see importance in it. It's just, it's too vague to figure out. If you follow someone else's life path, what you're going to get is very different results. So start with yourself first. What is your ideal self 10 years from now? So I'm 34, and I would really go and think about, when I'm 44 years old, what is the kind of life I want to have? How many children I want to have? What's the kind of house I want to live in? What's my day-to-day life going to be like? Is this the current career I want to be in? And these are the questions that, if you're able to get a rough idea, of course no one has all the answers. But it is important for us to start to think about it. So when we engage in this process of thinking about this, we're able to translate that to our students. They'll be like, yeah, you might not know what you want to be after you finish school, but you should have a rough path. Rough goal in the previous example was the travel destination. Where is the exact destination that you wish to go, so you can chart the path forward? Because I do believe that what matters is momentum and moving forward. So then the next thing you want to ask yourself is, what are you doing every single month to work towards the ideal self? So notice that I said every single month. I mean, you and I both know that we are busy. Like, there's 1,000 things that's over our head. How do you even find time to do the things that we are proud of? And do the things that move us towards our goal? When we look at achieving goals as a month-to-month thing, you realize that, number one, sometimes we set our expectation way too high. Number two, you realize that things that you can't do on the first week of the month, maybe you can make it up on the second week. And sometimes we set a week by week goal. When we're unable to achieve things in a week one, I'm not the type of person, like, this goal is too unrealistic, let me just forgo it entirely. And we all know that progress matters a lot. So do something that moves yourself towards that. Look, I realize that I've been harsh towards you. And I want you to know that the reason I am this harsh is because you have chosen this path in education, and it is a big responsibility. Many people who come on this path, they give up because they can't find their own way. They can't find the motivation to continue going down this path. And oftentimes it's because teaching when your students don't cooperate with you is the most depressing thing ever. I want you to create your own vision, be clear of your own life, so that you're able to have your identity not just purely as an educator, where if your students like you or not, that determines your self-worth. And for me, it's just been a very ironic thing. when I stopped caring about what my students thought about me and just simply did what I thought was best for them, I stepped away from what everyone else has taught me about teaching youths. The ironic thing is that my students like me more, and I don't get so caught up in my students saying, "Oh, I don't like you, I hate you." And when people say that to me and I just dismiss it away, or instead I show concern to them instead, what happens after that is very powerful, where they're able to be vulnerable with me because I was vulnerable with them before. So figure out your own life. And then after that, you can be a better teacher for your students. And after you figured it out, just go and share the same process to your students. And that's honestly what they need. Because if you have figured it out for yourself, you just literally just run them through what was on your mind. What were you thinking about? What were your fears? What were your expectations? What happened internally? How do you feel now? How do you feel then? These are all the things that actually just by leaving it, you already have all of the content to share with your students. Okay, then after that already, after your students have already figured out, oh, what is it that they want to achieve, then afterwards you can break it down into your own class. Even if you are a science teacher, it doesn't mean you can't help your students set goals, because a teacher's job is to guide a student in their own life, right? So if you're able to guide them and then saying, specifically in this science class, I'm going to help you achieve your goals with science. So figure out like how to convert or relate to their goals to your current class. And then the next thing is to set systems, right? So the first thing we did was set goals, right? But goals don't get you anywhere. So after you have figured out your own life, and then afterwards you have figured out what it is for your students, the next tip is actually for you to get rid of whatever that we have said on the first one. But it's really important that we do the next tip. And then the next tip is to set systems, not goals. So I read this from Scott Adams, which says that a goal is a specific objective that you either achieve or don't sometime in the future. A system is something you do on a regular basis that increase your odds of happiness in the long run. Systems people succeed every time they apply their systems, in a sense that they did what they intended to do. The goals people are fighting the feeling of discouragement at every turn. How do we set out our systems? Of course, whatever is set as goals are not useless. We need to break down our goals. In this current age, you can use pen and paper, or you can just put your goals inside AI system like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, and just tell them, these are my goals in the next 10 years. These are my goals in 10 years' time. Can you break it down into monthly habits that I can do year by, break it down into monthly habits and break it down to monthly habits that will help me achieve these goals. Keep it to within 20 minutes every single week. So these are simple things that we can actually do and have AI create all these systems for us. So then with this system now, with these systems now, what's important is we need to have this system. So we need to form a habit with it. One technique I love to use is called habit stacking. So let's say one of your goals is to become fit. What you can do is, with habit stacking, you can, let's say every time you brush your teeth, you do 5 push-ups. So we already have the habit to brush our teeth. So every time we brush, we just say, every time I brush my teeth, I will just do 5 push-ups. So when we get rid of the decision-making process and everything is automatic, then it becomes a habit in the long run. So I've used habit stacking for a lot of things to build my fitness regime and to set my morning routine. So that's habit stacking. The number 2 is the belief that they can change. So number 2 is believing that they can change. I think this speaks to a lot of human beings. I think this speaks to me a lot because I've always believed my identity was not a fit person. I refused to do any fitness activity for the longest time because I just believed that I didn't need to do it and that I was just not that kind of person. And 2 years ago, I started to pick up running. I started to participate in triathlons. And even though I didn't believe that I was that kind of person, I just signed up anyway because I wanted to be that kind of person. And it has been 2 years since then. And my identity is I am a fit person. I am a successful person. And that as a result has helped me to do the things that come naturally as a fit and successful person. Like talking to the camera right over here. And then afterwards running every single week. And I believe in that identity of myself so strongly that I do it without even thinking about it. And it makes me happy. It makes me feel accomplished every single time. So just with these 2 simple ones, the last thing is to just get them to try. If you really want to empower youths to realize their potential, the first step really is to try. And if they don't know what to do, I always say this, which is tell your students to replicate what you did and then afterwards iterate. Get them to just simply follow. And afterwards, they have done it for, let's say, a week. Get them to iterate. Integrate this habit into something that they themselves would be happy doing. So always replicate, then iterate. And today's quote is, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, by James Clear, the writer of Atomic Habits. If you'd like more content that helps you become a better facilitator, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.